Well, I hope you are all safe and well. We've literally just got back from Belgium. We're heading over there for the World Feeder Fishing Championships. It's been quite a long journey, but to be fair, once we actually got to Calais, it's literally just over 3 hours to the actual venue. So it's an ideal opportunity for those people that want to go over and watch the event this year. Now, I thought you'd appreciate a little bit of a behind the scenes look at how we've been preparing for this year's World Feeder Fishing Championships. The Championships is in its 11th year now. However, it wasn't until 2014 until England actually won their first gold medal. Back then the manager was Tom Pickering, and I was fortunate enough to be there on the bank, running the bank, and that was probably one of the first years when I really kind of settled into being part of the squad. I actually ran the bank for that championship. I ran the bank for Phil Ringer on day one, and then on day two I ran the bank for Steve Ringer, and that was actually the year when Steve Ringer became world champion. Absolutely incredible experience. And little did we know that obviously just the following year, 2015, that's when England went and took the gold medal by a very small margin, but they actually went and won their second gold medal, which took place in Holland. That was a very close event, and that was on the Ghent-Terneuzen Canal, and once again I was there, part of it. And so since then, obviously the lads have really got a taster for what it's like to be world champions, but unfortunately they haven't won the event since then. And so, as you can imagine, quite a few things have changed over the years. There's been a change of management as well. Tom Pickering is no longer manager. The manager is Dean Barlow, and we've already, we are several weeks or even months really into the preparation for this year's championship. Now, we had initially a couple of meetings down at BARSTON Lakes. However, it is quite central for everybody because, as you can imagine, the team and the support staff and the management basically live all over the country. So for us to meet at BARSTON, it's an ideal meeting place. So we initially had a meeting there, and then we also had a bit of a press day there as well with Preston Innovations. Now, they are continuing their generous sponsorship of the team, which obviously that we are incredibly grateful for. And we had a bit of a media press kind of day where we had a little bit of a meeting, and the lads just kind of got some of the tattle out and just went through some media clips for the Preston Innovations Facebook page, where we could just kind of share some of the rigs, some of the tattle tips, and some of the things that we may be expecting to be using over in Belgium. So that was a great get together, great opportunity to see the lads, just kind of touch base. And then really the next time and the next opportunity we would all get together would be over in Belgium. So all thoughts turned to taking a look at this incredible venue. As you can see, it's a huge expanse of water. Now, this water, it is a still water. It's a lake that's connected to a river. So the fish that we are expecting to be targeting are migratory fish. So, at certain times of year, there may be more fish available to catch than other times of year. And initially, before we went over there, we were expecting the fishing to be quite difficult. There were reports that there would be lots of roach fishing. However, there were some areas where there isn't much bait going in there. It's not a venue that gets regularly fished, certainly not all the way around it. So just as you would expect with some venues like this, if there are areas where there isn't any bait going in, then why would there really be any fish there? So that was something that we were obviously expecting. We headed over there, I was travelling over there with Rich Wilson, and we've actually gone over on the Channel Tunnel, and it was just over 3 hours until we reached the venue. An incredible venue. It's red hot, flat calm. There's so much water, it's unbelievable. For us, we got there on the Sunday, and as it turned out, actually on that day was a very large club feeder competition already taking place on the venue. So we built that into our schedule because that gave us a fantastic opportunity to just have a look at the venue, obviously, but also to see how it was fishing. And one of the great things was that this was a highly competitive match, which means that the teams and the anglers that were competing there would be using exactly the same sorts of methods and tactics that they would be using in a World Championship. So it's not like it was a match where they would be using alien methods.
Well, this has been our first insight of the venue, and I'm over here at what will probably be, it'll be A, B, C, this will be D section actually on the World Championships. And Frank, on the first peg on this bit here is just absolutely run away with it. He must have got 18, 20 green now, and everybody else in the section struggling. There's one or two people that have caught 1 and 2. There's an angle that's got 3 or 4. But the noticeable thing is that there's very, very little in between. There's hardly any small fish, there aren't any roach being caught. All the anglers that you can see behind me are literally just sat waiting and waiting. Just watching Frank here on this end peg. He's going to have a runaway weight. But it's, you know, we were told that there were going to be lots of roach here. We saw some fish caught in that early section where we went to earlier, which is going to be A and B section in the World Championships. There were some small fish. We went here for the first hour, but we heard the first hour was best. When we got there, it just gradually got worse and worse and worse and worse. By the time we got to the halfway stage, we saw very, very few fish caught. So we didn't think it was going to be an easy venue, but this has been a real eye-opener. This is the bit where Frank is. There's the big Pluto dredger, and then there's a bit of a gap here. That's where Frank is. He's been catching the bream on that first peg there, and then as you can see there's a bit of a gap here. There's some ropes here, and obviously the buoys and everything, the ropes that's help keep that dredger in place. So there is a gap there. But I've just been told that it was predicted that that peg would produce today for whatever reason, and that's certainly been the case today.
So that was a fantastic opportunity for us to have a look at all 5 sections and obviously get to see if there were going to be any differences across the sections, and obviously get an idea of where and how people are catching fish and what species there were and what kind of quantities. Now, there are 5 sections going into this World Championships. They're A through to E. Now, A and B section are on a big bend, and they are very, very similar. They are next door to each other, and we expect A and B section to be very, very similar. We don't know if the end pegs are going to be dominating, and that was obviously something that we'd inevitably be looking at. And then we worked our way over to C, D and E sections. Now all 3 of those sections are different from each other. C and D go out onto a bit of it's like a peninsula near an activity centre, and there's loads of water to have a go at, you know. And C section goes round onto the point, and then the point is also shared with D section, which works its way around a rather busy area of the lake, because that's where there's a lot of boat traffic. That's where the boat traffic go in and out of the marina, so that can be quite busy on the point of D section with boat traffic. And then E section, which was going to be the section that we would learn the least about, because it wasn't pegged in the competition, and that was an area that had been suffering a lot with weed, just like lots of other stretches on this lake. A few weeks ago there were lots of weed problems, and that was something that we were obviously going to get to grips with on the following day when we were going to get a chance to actually fish the venue. However, they have put some things in place where they have actually been dredging the weed out. They've done a fantastic job of clearing sections A to D. However, they haven't got to E section yet, so that was a section that we would learn the least about, just purely because we hadn't seen anyone fish it, and we heard that the weed was still a problem there. So that is still going to be a little bit of an unknown when we get out there for the championship week. Now, the following day, which was Monday, we actually got opportunity to fish the venue. Both myself and Rich Wilson took our tackle over as well, because obviously the more people you've got on the bank, the more things you can try out, and hopefully the more things you are going to learn.
It's our second day here in Belgium, and we've just finished our, call it a training session or a practice session if you want to call it that. As you can see, this is the road access This goes behind what could only be described as, it's almost like flood defence, and there's steps here that go up and over. We've fished on what's possibly going to be section A stroke B in the World Championships. We've all sat down in a line, and basically the format for today was really just a free-for-all. We all watched the match yesterday, we saw a few things, and so Dean's just kind of left it open to everybody to just kind of go with what you want to try, you know. There have been some lads targeting roach, some lads targeting the bream as well, and obviously some have done a combination of the two, and I think we've learnt quite a bit. There's, you know, quite a bit of algae in the water now. We didn't see any of, or I personally didn't notice any of that yesterday, but obviously there must have been some somewhere, and it's obviously blown to where we are actually fishing today. And there has been some weed here as well on the bottom, which we kind of knew about, and this has obviously given us an idea about where all that weed is, how much of it there is, and if there are any clear areas as well. So these are the steps up and over. This is it's a path, but I think it's more of a cycle path, and that's where we fished all in a row. Will Freeman's been on the end, Mick Viles, Rich Wilson, there's myself, then Dean. Next one along is Westy, next one along is Rob Wotton, next one along is Lee Kerry, second from end has been Waco, and then right on the end down there is Steve Ringer. So we've covered quite a bit of space. We've all sat in a line just as though it's match conditions, and we fished to match times thereabouts with a pre-baiting period, and then we've just got on with it, you know, what we wanted to try. We've all tried different mixes, different lines, targeted different fish, and it's been a really interesting session. It's been a real eye-opener. Well, it's been a fantastic session. It's been red hot, as you can see. The sun's out now. It's been interesting. We've caught just about every species going. For this place, we caught some asp, we've caught some roach, we've caught some eyed. There has been, I don't know if there's been any skimmers caught, but there have been 1 or 2 bream caught as well. And you know, it's just lots of perch as well. So, you know, it's just getting a feel for the venue. It's all about seeing what is out there, what quantities they're in, what lines you can catch them on, and what the best baits are for them. There might be species that, you know, the lads in you know, on the 2 days of competition might not be targeting, but if we can find ways of avoiding those fish, then obviously that's going to be of an advantage. And if we can find ways of picking out bigger fish like bigger roach, any bonus perch, and certainly bream, then that's something that we've been working on today. And there have been 1 or 2 things that have become very apparent. We've been fishing with worms, casters, as you'd expect, maggot, pinkies. We've had some sweet corn. We've gone through everything. And, you know, one of the things we talk about a lot, it can be difficult practicing for matches, certainly if you're on your own. But when you've got a lineup like what we've got here, where we've all sat in a line and there's a good number of us, you can work together, you can try things out, you can experiment, and that's where you can really get an advantage. And as you can imagine, on a venue like this, you know, they're literally only going to get today, tomorrow morning, before we drive back home, back to England, and then we've obviously got the full training week. So we haven't got an unlimited amount of time on this venue. So obviously, to work efficiently in trying to work tactics out, work methods out, work out what's going to capture those species, then, you know, if you can do it efficiently in a lineup like this, then this is really where you can get an advantage.
As we were to find out, the venue is quite diverse. It's a huge expanse of water. We've heard reports that it goes very, very deep out in the middle. You know, they are still excavating gravel out of there. You know, there are boats actively going in and out and around the lake throughout. So even though, you know, we might get an idea of some of the depths, there's nothing saying that they may not change going into the championship week, because if they're still extracting gravel from there, then obviously, as you'd expect, there are areas of the lake that will constantly be changing. It was also a great opportunity just to get a feel for what it's like in the local area, find out where the shops are, where the local tattle shop is especially. You know, we are going to be sourcing bait from over there, and Yule Slabbers really looked after us at the local tattle shop. It's a fantastic shop they've got there, and obviously we need to put things in place as regards ordering bait, what the supply is, obviously how we pay for things as well, but also the lead times on ordering bait and things like that, when we can get it, you know, which mornings we're going to be accessing the bait, and how we can actually manage it whilst we're over there. So having a tattle shop that's literally about 2 minutes from the venue is going to be absolutely ideal. We then got to this morning, which is now Tuesday, and we were on an earlier crossing. I needed to get home back to Sheffield because I've got some work to do, so myself and Rich just kind of left the lads to it. They were going to be coming back on a later crossing, which meant that they could get about 4 hours in on the venue. They decided to fish C section. Now that is going round the point of the peninsula. It's a very interesting looking area, to be fair, because we didn't really know what to expect as regards the depths. We didn't know what the weed was like. We had watched the anglers on that section on the Sunday in the match, and it did fish hard. There were literally only about 2 bream caught, but there were roach there. We expected asp to be there as well, so the lads made the most of the time there. They had a session of about 4 hours, but it was very clear to see the differences in the pegs there. Even where Steve Ringer was and Adam Wakeling, I think there was a difference in depth of about a 1 or a 2, may even be more second difference count as regards the actual depth. So we are expecting the depth to be very, very important. Well, it's Tuesday, it's our final day, well, it's the final morning of this trip. It's very much overcast today, complete changes in weather. They have actually forecast rain for the next few days, so we've got a little bit lucky, we've got away with that. We're over on what is going to be the edge of C and D section for the World Championships. This is what's the area that's over on the point. This is the area where Frank had that big weight of bream opposite Pluto, the big dredger, as you can see. The lads have decided they're going to fish just round the corner here, going around to the early middle part of C section, which is on a bit of a point. A very interesting area. It's going to be very different from where we were yesterday. We think there might be more roach here, we don't know, but we've literally got a 4-hour session. Once we're set up and everything, we can actually fish, or the lads can fish for 4 hours. Myself and Rich have got to get back because we've got a 4:20 crossing from Calais to Folkestone on the Channel Tunnel, so we're going to have to get away, but the lads are going to have a solid 4-hour session before they can head back, so that's just going to give them a great insight into what this particular section's like. Steve's into a fish. He's only had 1 roach up to now. All the lads are doing things slightly different. Rob's had a few small perch, Lee's had some small fish and a couple of roach as well. Will's caught some on the end. Well, Will's not on the end, just around the corner is Mick Viles. Steve's it's actually a zander, believe it or not. We had seen lots of fish caught on this trip, you know, and especially, you know, when we saw, you know, a large net of bream caught, which actually won the match on the Sunday. And, you know, to see those fish there, it's obviously great. We saw how they were caught, we saw where they were caught, but it was also clear to see that there weren't bream spread throughout the match length. So whilst we're expecting bream to be important through this championship, well, obviously it's a team event, so, you know, you've got to think about ways of targeting the perch, targeting the roach, and we may even be targeting the asp as well. But as with all natural venues like this, there are large fluctuations in depth. You know, 1 and 2 pegs can be vastly different from each other, you know, so the draw is going to be critical. We're expecting it to change between now and when we get back there, but that's something that obviously we will be working on through training week. The lads are going to have 5 days, Monday through to Friday, to work on their tactics, and hopefully we're going to get a nice spread of sections as well, so it's going to give us a chance to fish one of, if not all of the sections at some stage. But if not, obviously we will have people on the bank like myself and Richard Wilson. Graham West is going to be out there. We're expecting Eddie Bryden to be out there, and you know, the management team are obviously going to be there to keep their eye on the other teams, on the other nations, to see how they're faring, as well as obviously how our England lads are getting on as well. So I thought you'd appreciate this little bit of a behind the scenes insight. We are going to be doing some live streaming. We are going to be sending you updates all the time whilst we're out there through training week and through championship weekend. So the 2 key ways that you can be kept in the loop, if you want to see how we're getting on, if you want to see how the venue is changing, we're expecting it to change certainly through training week, then there are 2 key ways that you can actually keep in touch with what's happening. If you're on Facebook, then head on over to the Preston Innovations England feeder team page. If you just give that a like, then not only myself, but there will be some of the anglers, some of the management team will be updating posts onto that Facebook page for you. So if you want to be kept in the loop, give that page a like on Facebook, and if you're not connected on Facebook and if you prefer to see uploads right here on YouTube, then head on over to my other channel, which is the Fishing Life channel. That is my vlogging channel, and that's the channel where I will be updating you with video updates and vlogs throughout the week directly onto that channel. So they won't be coming onto this channel, they will be going onto the Fishing Life channel. So if you head on over there, give that page a subscribe. I'll put a link underneath this video for you and a link at the end of this video for you, just so you can be kept up to date with all the fresh uploads. So we've put a lot of time and effort into this. We're hoping we're going to hit the ground running when we get there, and like I say, if you want to be kept up to date on everything that's happening, either head on over to the Facebook page, which is the Preston Innovations England Feeder Team page, or just give my other channel, Fishing Life, a subscribe, and that way you'll be kept in the loop with all the uploads. So thanks for all the great messages, and I really look forward to updating you with what's happening over in Belgium.